This happened just a couple months ago, and I honestly never thought I'd experience anything even remotely like this. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and this night started just like most of my weekend nights. Me and a few of my buddies went to a local bar just a few blocks away from my house. It was always a fun time just hanging out with my friends, but I was also single, so I'd be lying if I said hanging out with my buddies was the only reason I was there. It was usually 50-50 whether or not I'd find a girl to talk to, so I didn't try too hard or anything, and would just enjoy the night out. This was one of those nights where I just hung out with my friends the whole time, talking about whatever, and staying real late. While we were there, one of my friends noticed a guy watching us. He was sitting alone at one of the small booths in the back of the bar, kind of just watching people, and not talking or anything. And my friend was right. Once he mentioned it, every time I looked back there, the guy was watching us. He was a big dude too, and had dark circles under his eyes like he'd been an alcoholic for 40 years. And just to be clear, the look he had wasn't like he was trying to be friendly. He was looking at us like he hated us. We figured he was just drunk and didn't know he looked that pissed off, but it was still weird. We had never even seen the guy before. Around 1 a.m., we had all had enough and were ready to head out. Both of my buddies lived right across the street from there, but I lived in a neighborhood a few blocks down. It was about a 15-minute walk. The whole way, I had that eyes were on me feeling, even though the whole town and neighborhood was asleep. No one was even around driving or walking. It was just me. Made me walk a little quicker though. I really didn't have any reason to feel this way, because I took the same walk to and from that bar and other restaurants pretty much daily or nightly. I thought the beer was just getting to me. I got home and went to the kitchen to chug some water, then decided to just sleep on the couch that night. Whenever I got home late, I'd usually sleep on the couch, because I would be too tired to go upstairs and shower and everything. I passed out probably right as I laid down. I woke up later in the night to a quiet thump, or maybe a click type sound. I opened my eyes, and my head was facing the front door, and I could have sworn I saw it move. Like it was open an inch, and then it closed just as my eyes opened. Whatever the hell I saw, or thought I saw, it freaked me out, and I sat there frozen, staring at the door. But everything was quiet, and nothing else moved. I called out, "Who's there?" and waited for a whole 3 minutes. But there was nothing at all. I thought I had to have been hallucinating. I probably should have gotten up right then and there to check the door, to see if it was unlocked, or if maybe there was something to explain what I thought I saw. But in a way, I felt like that would have just gotten me more nervous, and that it was better to just forget about it. Because really, what were the chances that was actually what I saw? I was sleepy, drunk, and hadn't even fully opened my eyes. Plus, it was basically too dark to see anything clearly. It could have just been a shadow or something. I laid back on my pillow and closed my eyes. I don't actually remember falling asleep, or how long it took, but I remember being in the middle of having a dream and hearing this slow creaking sound. Obviously, in the dream, I didn't process what it was. I then heard a few soft thumps, each one getting slightly louder and closer, until suddenly my brain processed everything, maybe realized something was wrong, and I woke up. My eyes opened facing the door again. This time, I didn't see it move, because it was already wide open. My immediate reaction was to look to my left at the rest of the living room I was in. In the darkness, a large figure was sitting on the lounge chair right in front of the couch. It was that guy from the bar. Even in the dark, I instantly recognized the extremely tired, dark eyes he had. He didn't even move or look worried that I'd woken up. It was like he didn't care at all. I jumped up from the couch and sprinted straight out the front door. I didn't have my phone because I left so fast, and unsure what else to do, I just kept running all the way to one of my friend's houses, banging on his door and getting him to call the cops for me. The cops got to my house before I even got back, but the man was gone. They took down the details I gave them and even got some security footage from the cameras at the bar, but it all amassed to nothing. I still have no idea who that guy was or why he followed me home and entered my house just to sit there and stare at me. To this day, I still go to that same bar all the time with my buddies, and I've never seen him show up there again. Just this past winter, my whole town was basically shut down during a huge winter storm that came through. Roads closed, stores closed, and everyone was just waiting it out at home. I lived in a smaller town that definitely was not prepared for big storms, both rain or snow. For 2 days, the power was in and out. It'd be on for a few hours, then get cut for however long. The phone lines were a little more stable, but still not great. On this night, the power had cut off sometime between 8 and 9 p.m. I had a bunch of random candles set up in the living room by the couch just so I could see, and I had the windows open to watch the snowstorm, though I pretty much couldn't see anything but a cloud of white. With no power and no internet, I had nothing to do. It was about an hour and a half after the power had cut that I suddenly heard someone yelling outside. It was a man's voice, and super faint because of all the wind outside, but it sounded close, like he had to be right outside my house, maybe on the sidewalk, or possibly even closer. But I had no view of anything. There was no visibility from the whiteout, so even the front yard wasn't clear. He kept yelling, though I had no idea what he was saying, and it was also strange that his voice came from the same spot right in front of my house, not moving along the sidewalk or crossing the street. Didn't sound like a call for help either, just like him trying to call out to someone. And after 30 seconds, he stopped. The voice didn't fade into the distance, he just stopped yelling. After a minute, I went back by the candles and sat down. Honestly, I didn't think anything else of it. I stayed up pretty late though, because I'd basically been napping all day with nothing to do. I was starting to get hungry though. I was trying to hold off on dinner, waiting for the power to be a little more stable, but clearly that wasn't happening. I went to the kitchen and started searching the pantry for anything to eat. But while I was in there, I started to hear something rattling. It was distinct and didn't blend in with the rest of the storm outside. I moved to the hallway and looked down it, seeing that the front door was shaking, like shifting slightly in the door frame, as if the wind was pressing and pulling on it. I walked up slowly, still kinda confused how this was happening right now, when it had been storming all day and night, without this ever happening. The wind didn't seem to have picked up at all either. The shaking very abruptly stopped when I was just a few feet away from the door. After a moment, I grabbed the handle and felt the door. I don't know, checking if it was vibrating or something, but it wasn't. I cracked it open slightly. When I looked out, I saw footprints in the snow right up by the door. What the hell? I opened the door further and looked around, but again, I couldn't see very far at all. I also couldn't tell if these footprints had anything to do with the door shaking, or if it really was just the wind, because these footprints could have been from whoever was out there yelling earlier in the night. He might have come up to my porch for some reason while he was out there. I thought about trying to call the police, mostly because the person might have been in trouble or in need of help. But my phone had no service, and it seemed like a headache to go through for something that was likely nothing. Not a single part of me was thinking this person had come up to my door for something malicious, especially not in a storm like this. But I quickly found out how wrong I was. While I was still by the front door, I heard something horrifying. The back door slid open. It was one of those heavy sliding glass doors that I guess I'd forgotten to lock, and I could hear someone slide it open for a whole 3 seconds, fully opening it, before it went silent. From where I was in the front hallway, I couldn't see back there. I only had view of a small section of the kitchen at the end of the hallway. The back door was just a few feet to the left of that section. I stared at that corner of the wall, just terrified, waiting for someone to appear, but no one did. After an entire minute of waiting, I very slowly began walking down the hall, closer to the kitchen, taking quiet single footsteps, trying to just get far enough to peer around at the door. I saw it wide open just like I'd heard, but no one was in the doorway. I could see the snow flooding into the house from the darkness outside. I then started walking just a little further, and I could see some wet shoe prints on the floor. However, it looked like they only walked inside a few steps, probably looked around, then walked back out the door. When I got even closer, I could clearly see 2 sets of footprints out in the snow, one coming up to the house and one leaving, walking out to the side of the backyard. I closed the door and tried calling the police dozens of times. I couldn't get through. I stayed up for hours, essentially patrolling the house with a candle in my hand, making sure no one was trying to get in through any of the other windows or doors. The next day, the storm thankfully let up enough for phone lines to come back up, and also the power grid. Turned out I wasn't the only one to have something happen. Along my neighborhood street, about 15 or so houses, 8 of them had reported someone messing with their doors last night. One guy even saw the man outside his door holding a gun in his hand and described as someone looking for trouble, like a psychopath just trying to use the storm as cover for whatever he wanted to do. Of the 8 houses, though, mine was the only one he got inside of. Knowing now what he looked like, being some unhinged guy with a gun, makes it way more unsettling. Though I can't figure out why the man didn't walk further in. My first thought was that because I didn't make a sound or react to either door being messed with, and he didn't hear anything when he stepped in, maybe he assumed the home was empty. But it was so late that it would have only been logical to assume I would be sleeping upstairs. So that theory doesn't really check out. I don't know why this happened, and seemingly none of the neighbors on the street know either. I don't want to bore you with too much context getting into what happened, but during a short period of my life, I was living out of a small van. Basically, I'd go from town to town, parking wherever I could and sleeping in the back. This was a while ago, and it wasn't all built out and nice looking like some of them I see nowadays. It was just an empty cargo van with a mattress pad in the back, and a curtain blocking off the front so no one could look in. It wasn't ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but it helped me get by. The night this happened was the most disturbing, unsettling, and genuinely horrifying night of my life. I was driving to see my dad, who lived all the way on the West Coast. So during that drive, I was usually just pulling into rest stops and sleeping on the way because it was easy. I'd done it 100 times. I'll see the rest stop ahead sign, then pull in, head to the back, close the curtain, and sleep. Then I could get up in the morning and get right back on the road. No time wasted. So this night, that was exactly what I did. I pulled in, closed the curtain, and laid down. This rest stop was basically in the middle of nowhere. Honestly, I don't even know what state I was in, or what cities were nearby. I was on that stretch of road that was dead for what felt like 800 miles. Nobody else was on the roads at night, and the rest stop was empty of any other cars or even truckers. Being so used to it, though, I wasn't even creeped out or anything. I actually fell asleep relatively quickly, excited to keep driving and see my dad soon, who I hadn't seen in almost 2 years. I slept for a few hours, I guess probably 2 or 3, and when I woke up, I had no time to think or react. It was abrupt and sudden. I woke to the unmistakable sound of the front door being opened. My eyes shot open and I instantly felt my heart racing. In the routine of it all, I had forgotten to lock the doors. But who the fuck just opened my door? It was dead silent for a whole minute, like someone opened the door, then just disappeared. I didn't want to say anything, or even move, because I knew how isolated I was, and that if I showed myself, I might be screwed. Then, after a minute, the van suddenly shook a little, just rocked back and forth, before I heard a soft thump, followed by the door closing. Someone got in and sat in the driver's seat. I couldn't believe this was happening. Who the hell gets in someone else's van and just sits down, even closing the door? How the hell is this guy even at this rest stop? I had so many questions, but I stayed frozen, just praying the guy did not pull back the curtain. Things quickly escalated though, when I heard him start searching through stuff, like the glove box in the center console. I always kept the keys hidden in the flip-down sunglasses holder on the ceiling, because why would I ever assume something like this would happen? I thought surely he was just gonna find a bit of cash in the center console, and then leave. But then I heard a click, and then keys hitting the floor. This was the moment where I knew I had to either do something or stay hidden for the entirety of whatever was about to happen. And I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I listened to him pick up the keys and turn on the van. He didn't even hesitate, immediately backing out and getting on the road. Now, again, there were no windows in the back, and the curtain covered the whole front area. I could only see slight shadows and light from the top and sides around the curtain. Still had no clue what the guy even looked like, or what intentions he had. A few minutes down the road, he started mumbling to himself. At first it was casual, like he was just talking to himself, but it very quickly turned into anger. He even started punching the steering wheel, or the console or something, like he was pissed off. It only made me more horrified of who was behind that curtain in the van with me. And while I couldn't see, I could feel that he was swerving a bit. I knew the road was dead straight, so him swerving back and forth made me sure he had to be intoxicated in some way. He drove for what felt like hours, but realistically it was probably around 20 minutes. Then he suddenly slammed on the brakes. The van stopped. It was dead silent for a whole minute before the front door opened. The van shaked a little, and I heard him get out. I heard his footsteps start walking around the van and off to the right. And then it was quiet. He had left the van running, and I thought he was far away enough that I was sure this might be my only chance. I ran up to the front, closed the door, and started driving. Notably, I didn't see him anywhere. Off the road, it was just empty, pitch-dark forest. I drove, physically shaking, until I got to a gas station where I reported what had happened. Though you could probably guess it led to nothing. Cops were an hour out from the rest stop, which they found no other vehicles at, and I had no idea where the man had driven me to or walked into the forest at. Didn't even ever have a chance to see what he looked like, which almost makes it more scary. A few days later, I got to my dad's place, and soon after sold the van. I never really recovered from that incident, and I genuinely find it to be the most unsettling experience of my life. I even have nightmares about it, probably twice a month, usually with different variations, like with the guy pulling the curtain back and staring at me, or even once where I pulled the curtain back myself and found no one in the driver's seat. Regardless of what the hell he was really doing on that night, I'm very lucky to still be here.